We welcome back to the program world adventurer Brian Keating, who's taking us on a trip to Ecuador to see some wild birds and other creatures living in the cloud forest. Good morning to you.
Hi, Jill.
Great to have you as always, and you had some rare sightings this last trip.
We did. It was actually an amazing trip. I've been down to Ecuador twice this year, both times leading trips to the Galapagos. But after I finished the Galapagos trip, my wife and I took off into the mountains of Ecuador. We went up into the highlands. This is in the cloud forest on the Andean, on the Atlantic side of the Andes, so above the Amazon. And that's a coatimundi. That was just a tapir that you saw moments before. The bird, the hummingbird population, has to be seen to be believed. We saw about 20 species in about 4 hours at this one remote lodge on the other side of the Andes. And here's a lodge we went to that had a couple of specialized places. This is called a white-throated quail dove. And to see this dove in these forests is almost impossible. So these lodges have set up systems like this. This is a gray tinamou. There are bird watchers in Ecuador that have been bird watching all their lives. They've never seen a gray tinamou. This is a chachalaca, they're common, and that's called a fasciated wren that woke us up at breakfast every day for a while. But then the best part was in 3 different lodges we went to, we came across these birds. Now this is the white-bellied ant pitta, and ant pittas represent a group of very shy forest birds that are only found in South America, about 50 species. People never see them, except a couple of lodges in the last 10 years have developed a program. You see the guy throwing something on the right-hand side? That's what's happening. He's throwing little bits of worms. This is called the chestnut-crowned ant pitta. Another lodge in another part of Ecuador, they actually brought this bird out. So at 7:30 in the morning, you meet at a certain spot with the guide. He brings a few little chopped worms, and for 5 minutes you get this incredible experience. But this one was the highlight. Listen to this bird. This is called a hokotoko ant pitta. And the hokotoko ant pitta is there he is right there, calling away. The hokotoko ant pitta is one of the, well, it's a bird that was only discovered in 1997. So this is a big bird to be discovered at that point in time. It was discovered by a fellow by the name of Ridgely. He's a famous American bird watcher, and he was out just doing a routine morning patrol, listening to birds, and this bird all of a sudden appeared out of the bush. And he started a foundation called the Hokotoko Ant Pitta Foundation, and they've been able to bring tourists into 4 different lodges that they've got in 11 different reserves. And that money then supports the 40,000 acres that they've been able to purchase in various parts of these forests. And these forests, about 85 or 95% of these forests have disappeared since World War II.
Oh, wow.
So the remaining areas are critical to support. And so I was just last week, I was down in Nelson, BC. I was with a friend of mine by the name of Tim Jackson. He organizes trips to Africa, and he and I talked about the importance when we do these trips to stay in places that are doing good conservation work. As tourists, we can have a huge positive effect if we choose the right places to stay at. When we go to Africa with Civilized Adventures, we try to stay in lodges that have a bigger plan to protect the landscape. And the same applies to these remote places in Ecuador. And these places in Ecuador is becoming a bird watcher's mecca. And there are lodges that are beautifully outfitted and organized in beautiful areas that cost about as much as a downtown Calgary hotel night. And yet you're in some of the world's best landscapes and unique situations with good guides.
And since we've seen you last, you earned an award for your work in conservation, so we congratulate you for that.
Well, thank you.
Very well deserved.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the Canadian Wildlife Federation Foundation gave me a very nice award in Montreal last week.
Excellent. Well, we can see why, and your passion for conservation and for these adventures, we can tell, and thank you so much for joining us and sharing them with us again. Rare sightings, and those birds were incredible. Andrew Schultz, did you see that?
Yeah.